Good morning, everybody. KC3QPJ here. What is it? It's Wednesday morning, February 16th of 2022. Sorry for the delay. I'm just trying to compose my thoughts. I'm going to do a little bit of a different video for everybody today. This is going to be an introduction for new hams to give a little bit of my story and how I got into ham radio, and share a little bit of my experiences with you, and then give you some recommendations on how you can save money as a new operator into the hobby. First of all, for anybody that might be watching that would like to become an amateur radio operator, or a ham as they say, welcome. And I hope that what I have to share with you is going to be helpful to you in your start in this journey. Now, I have been an operator since November 24th of 2020. And let me tell you, there is a lot that gets thrown at you, but it's a lot of fun. And what I want to try to help you guys do today is decide, hey, what equipment do I want? How do I want to utilize that equipment? And what's going to be best for me depending on my location and what I want to use it for. So as being new to the hobby, I didn't know much about the ham radio. I didn't know much about anything at all in regards to different bands like 2 meter, 70 centimeter, 6 meter bands, which I'm sure for all the newbies out there, that's speaking French and not English. But after time and speaking to experienced ham radio operators, it really started to come first nature and what you can and can't do with different frequencies within those allotted bands. Now, I am going to appeal to new technician and new general hams with this and share what my experiences have been and what I've enjoyed the most. And I'm going to try to keep this video as brief as possible so that I can be a big help to you and you guys don't lose interest. So getting into the hobby, so far I've only been dealing with 2 meter and 70 centimeter bands. However, within those bands there are different modes of operation outside of analog radio transmission that you can use, such as D-Star, which is a digital format, which uses internet to internet to get your signal anywhere you want to in the world. I have also used DMR radio, digital mobile radio, as some of you have seen on my videos. I have also used, with the help of another operator, Yaesu Fusion, and there are other digital modes that go along with that. So there are a lot of different modes, even as a technician, that will still get you global communications at no extra cost. And the only cost that really can affect you is how much you spend when you buy your first radio. So there are no service fees for anything on the air. You don't ever pay a service fee. That's the cool thing about it. Even with the digital modes, it's not like you're paying for a cell phone. What you're going to want to determine as a new ham is don't go with the popular. There's a lot of different modes that are really popular right now. My recommendation would be what suits you and what you want to get into. There is a lot when it comes to the digital modes of radio. So keep that in mind when you're first starting out. I prefer DMR radio. It is a little bit harder to program, but it's definitely, I feel, once it's programmed, much more user-friendly, and you can utilize that mode to get around the world. But that's my preference. There are other hams that prefer Fusion or D-Star or FT8, all the other digital modes, WinLink and all that. So DMR is my go-to. What I found appeals to me, and what appeals to me most about it is being able to have a almost private conversation like the old Nextel phones. You have the ability with hotspots to be able to directly contact one person, and nobody else hears you when you're contacting that other person. So there are other modes with other manufacturers that do that, but I just found it easier on the DMR side of things. So here's how you're going to save cost on radio. Figure out what modes appeal to you most. Now, automatically, all the radios that are made for 2 meter, 70 centimeter are analog radios right off the top. That's their main function. Analog is still a very efficient way to communicate, especially in the FM mode, which is what most amateur radios do in 2 meter and 70 centimeter. They also have quad band radios that will allow you to do 6 meter and 10 meter, which as a technician you are allowed to use 6 and 10 meter. So that being said, you want to look also toward the future, and this is where I kind of plunged in head first and didn't think about things. When you get your general license and you want to get an HF radio and you want all these nice bells and whistles, you want to make sure that the radio that you purchase is within your budget. You're not spending more than what you want to spend on a radio, but it'll still do what you want it to do and more. So my first suggestion is make sure you get your 2 meter and 70 centimeter coverage taken care of first with whatever radio you want to buy. Whether it be a Yaesu FT, XD, XTR 400, I don't even know the Yaesu model numbers, but it could be any kind of analog radio, just a simple dual band radio that's repeater capable. That's number one, because as a technician and even locally, that's what you're going to end up using the most is your local repeaters and simplex. And then when you start to get into your HF modes, pick something that's definitely going to interest you with what features you want. Most new HF radios have spectral analyzers, like a waterfall display to show you where different signals are coming in. Some of them are touchscreen, and they call those all-mode radios, or a shack in the box, because it covers so much bandwidth from 3 kilohertz all the way up to 50 kilohertz, which is near the 50 megahertz, up near the 6 meter bands. 50, no, that's higher than that, but that's where I've got to get my experience in. So, once you've gotten your general license and you know what modes that you like, the one radio I would recommend to anybody and everybody at this point, based on my experiences with the hams that I've known and the research that I've done, the Yaesu FT 991A is an amazing rig for both 2 meter, 70 centimeter, and all your HF bands. Well, why would I buy another radio that has 2 meter and 70 centimeter into it? And why would I have an initial radio that has 2 meter and 70 centimeter in it? Well, think of it this way. You can save a little bit more money by buying the 991A by having all those modes built into it, and then you can leave your 2 meter, 70 centimeter rig off and use that Yaesu for everything. Now, if something happens to the Yaesu radio, the HF bands, or something happens, a PL tone generator goes out, you're out of that radio until it's repaired. So it may work well on simplex HF, and then you can, just use that for HF and then revert back to your 2 meter, 70 centimeter radio. So you'll have that backup right off the top. Then, if nothing happens to it, then you got a great radio. The other thing that makes the 991A very unique is it has a built-in TV antenna tuner, antenna tuner. That's going to allow you to not have to purchase a separate antenna tuner when you go to set up your HF antenna. So it's going to work out a lot better than buying a whole bunch of different separate items to get up and running once you get your general ticket. And it'll save you money in the long run. And the 991A is one of the least expensive HF, VHF, UHF rigs on the market as we speak that offers all-in-one radio capability to get you around the world. Now, you are limited to the digital modes as to what Yaesu offers in their digital format. So you may not have D-Star available. You may not have DMR available. You won't have these available. You will not have D-Star available, DMR, or any other kind of digital mode unless you're linked into your computer. Now I know it can be done, but I haven't gone that far yet. But with my recommendations, that would be a really good initial setup that would save you the most money as a new ham radio operator. Now let's switch to antennas here. There are what they call vertical antennas, vertically polarized antennas, and then you have beam antennas, which can sit vertically or horizontally. Beam antennas have a tendency to focus most of their frequency output forward. There are some of the frequency that go out to the side, but it's not like what's being pushed forward from its driven element. And you have 3-element beams, 5-element beams, 8-element beams, and the list goes on. I will say if you are using repeaters from home and you have low elevation and you want to try to reach distant repeaters, or you want to try to use simplex with low elevation or below sea level, beam antennas could be optimal. I find that beam antennas or directional antennas are much more efficient doing field work. And believe me, there's a lot of stuff that you can do for the new hams parks on the air, where you go to a state park that's actually registered on Parks in the Air, and you can activate that park by getting 10 contacts. And you can activate as many parks as you can in the air in a year, and you get a prize from Parks on the Air. I'm not sure what it is, but I've only done one activation as a new ham, but it's a lot of fun to just get those 2 contacts, and then some people, they'll get those 10 contacts and roll out the door, get to the next park as fast as they can, get 10 more. They'll do 5, 6, 7, 10 activations a day, which to me takes the fun out of it. 1 a day is good enough for me. Get as many contacts as I can, build up some kind of a repertoire or a ham relationship with other ham radio operators that might listen out for you on the air, and then get into it a little bit more and do more activations as you go along. People will respond to you more, and it puts you on the map. So I'm not up for that yet. I just haven't had the time for it. So for me, beam or directional antennas, they are better for field work, in my opinion. And also, excuse me, if you your home base, if your ham shack at home is really low or below sea level, the beam antenna would probably be a good option for you. Now, if you are at sea level or a couple hundred feet above sea level, home base, I recommend vertical antennas. I am 500-foot elevation above sea level here at my current house, and I use a Diamond X300A. I'm getting out 110, 120, sometimes 140 miles, and if propagation is good due to thermal ducting, I could probably get out even further than that. And that's all I really need here at my ham shack. So I don't have an antenna farm on my roof. The one thing I do regret is not getting the Comet XC333. It's a tri-band antenna that has the 1.25 meter band built in. That's going to be soon upgraded, and I'm going to sell off my Diamond X300A at a good cost to somebody that might be starting up. So these are my opinions on antenna. It's all going to be based on what you want to do and what you want to utilize it for, but this has been my experience over the course of the last year and 3 months. I've absolutely loved this hobby. So, you're going to see radios that really appeal to you, and then you might buy them and then be disappointed. I'm disappointed in my D-Star. Not the radio, but the function of the D-Star. I just haven't utilized it nearly the way that I thought I would. So, that being said, that's in my truck now. That's my mobile rig. That's what I'm using to talk locally, and it's a great radio. It's an ICOM ID5100A. It's a great radio, but I don't use D-Star enough, so it's not a paperweight, still getting utilized, but it's still a great radio. Also, when you're just starting, just keep in mind, you do not have to spend big money to get into this. I mean, a lot of repeaters have what they call an Echolink system. It is a digitally formatted system that allows you to use your cell phone to get into local repeaters that have the Echolink built into them. So you don't even need to buy a radio right off the top. Do recommend that you will need a radio eventually, so start with something small, or however you want to start, whatever your budget will allow you for. I've done several reviews on several radios. My favorite radio handheld right now, I'd have to say, is my Anytone 878. It's DMR capable. It's compatible with all my other radios. Now, also, with most of the antennas that you buy for these radios, they are pre-tuned. They're not like CB, Citizens Band Radio. You can slap it on your roof and go for it. And always check your SWR anyway to make sure you're not getting a lot of reflected power back into your radio, but most of them don't need it. I haven't bought an antenna yet that I've needed to tune. So that's an upside for ham radio. They really take their time to do the research. Generally, everything's spot on when you go to plug and play. Also, one question that people may ask without any experience in the hobby: well, what radio should I buy that will be compatible to talk to another radio? The amateur bands are amateur bands. So every ham radio that is an amateur radio, and it is either FCC approved, every radio can interact with any other radio. It doesn't matter what brand, and this is in the analog mode. In analog mode, it doesn't matter. As long as their radio is capable of receiving what you're transmitting in analog, there are no issues there. Every radio can talk to any radio. Okay. When it comes to the digital modes, and you are in a digital mode with a radio, which is FM digital voice, not every radio is compatible. So that's where the trick comes in. What's going to suit you the best? That's what you're going to have to figure out and do the research on before you buy one of those big dollar radios. I will recommend that you do not, like I said, don't follow the popular thing, because it's not necessarily what's going to suit you. And there's always going to be that next thing, that next thing, that next thing. My one recommendation that is ham radio related, but it's not a ham radio, if you can find what they call a Blue DV, that's a Delta Victor, Blue DV, that allows you to plug into your computer and use any digital mode on any talk group. Now, it's not RF based if it's on your computer. You can tie your computer into your radio and use it that way, but Blue DV is mainly PC based. If you get one of those first, then you could figure out which digital format that you like the most outside of analog and go from there. And there are other modes that I haven't even mentioned today because I don't want to throw too much at you guys. But in closing, I just want to say welcome to the hobby, and I hope to hear you guys on the air, and I want you to subscribe to my channel. I'm not here to make money like I've mentioned before. I am just here to give my thoughts, share my journey and my experience with people that are just coming into the hobby and wanting to know, hey, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Well, this is what I've had to do, and I've kind of learned through trial and error. So I'm trying to save a lot of that for you. But Blue DV, it's amazing what the Blue DV can do. And that could really, you spend that 150 or 170, however much it costs, from either ham radio outlet or Amazon. I don't know if Amazon has Blue DV specifically, but if you're going to get a dongle for your computer, that's the one you want to get. That can help you decide, hey, what digital mode do I want to use outside of analog? And then go from there, because the sky's the limit. But guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe. Please share. I want anybody that's watching my videos, share this with people that you think it might help as a new amateur radio operator. And if you're a new operator or not an operator yet and are wondering what is this hobby all about, well, it depends on what you want to use it for. It can be about whatever you want it to be. But I enjoy it. I've had fun with it. And it's a great way to be prepared in case of any kind of emergency. So it gives you one up on a lot of other people. And I think, doesn't make you any better of a person, but it definitely makes you a little bit more prepared for anything that might come up. And I'd encourage anybody to either get your GMRS license or your amateur radio license. So that being said, this is KC3QPJ. I'm saying 7-3. I wish you all a good rest of the week. And I'll be signing off. Have a good one, guys.